While I will be telling this story with my own dramatic flair, at least to a degree, this is 100% a true story. It's a story of fear, panic, and horror. On that note, let's go back to August 11th, 1921. G. Holbrook, I can only assume, for the time that the G stood for George, was living at the Hood Hotel, later the Biltmore, at Northwest 6th and Everett, on the west end of Portland's Skid Row area. On the late afternoon of August 11th, he and an unnamed friend left this hotel and walked to the friend's home that stood at what would today be 418 Northwest 6th, at the site where this small building is today, behind the old Bar Hotel. It also happened to have an old casket warehouse behind it, a cool building likely to be demolished soon. Just a little side note. Upon arriving at this location, Holbrook began hearing frantic pleas for help. "Help me out! Help me out! They're holding me for ransom." Holbrook recognized the voice from somewhere, and as the individual continued to beg for help, Holbrook suddenly recognized the voice as belonging to his own brother. Let's just call him William. That's a nice 1920s name. Holbrook went into a panic. His brother appeared to be screaming from the basement of the home, which belonged to his friend. Was his friend holding his brother for ransom? Holbrook didn't wait to find out. When he couldn't find a way into the basement, he fled the home and rushed several blocks to police headquarters at Southeast 2nd and Oak, where he told detectives Marak and Miller that his brother, William, was being held captive in the basement of this 6th Street home. He noted that he had not heard from his brother for several days, corresponding this to William being held captive during that time. Hurry, come with me to this house." The two detectives accompanied Holbrook to this home, and upon their arrival, the friend allowed them to search the home willingly, including the basement, and the detectives found no one there. Holbrook was perplexed. Surely the guilty party must have relocated William, right? But the police had nothing to go on. But they did continue, probably passively, investigating the matter. What was bewildering in all of this was, why was there not immediate attention focused on Holbrook's friend? It was his home. But why would he hold his friend's own brother ransom? Even if he were desperate for money, wouldn't he go after a stranger, somebody he didn't know? And why would he willingly bring Holbrook there, knowing that William was right there and clearly able to scream for help? Whatever the case, Holbrook was a mess. Where was his brother? Was he dead? And if he knew anything, this friend was not talking. That is, until detectives Morak and Miller called him down to the station to talk to him as an obvious witness. Now things were serious. If Holbrook's account could be proven, then this friend had a man locked in the basement of his own home. Try and argue your way out of that one. The friend quickly threw his hands up and said, "No, William was never there." "Prove it," the detective said. So the friend sighed, put his lips together, and began to speak. Only he wasn't speaking in his own voice. It was someone else's voice. But why? Well, the whole thing was simply a prank gone too far. Something fairly common, especially in places like TikTok and YouTube nowadays. But this was in the 1920s. What kind of prank could this be? G. Holbrook fled the house so quickly it stopped his friend from being able to explain the situation. You see, this friend of his worked professionally as a ventriloquist. He used this talent to mimic William's voice and make it sound like he was being held captive in that basement. A little dark humor, I guess. And the friend likely stepped out of the room while doing this to make things sound more natural. And Holbrook fled the scene at this time, likely not even noting that his friend was nowhere to be seen at that time. It was just a prank, a cold prank that, for a time, aroused law enforcement's attention to a possible abduction. But William was just fine. At least, as far as I know.